Today we are going to look at how to do a boundary around the outside part of your field. We're also going to go through waterways, how to set those up in your display, and we will also end up with adding an AB line in a field that already has a current line in it. So in order to proceed, we need to check out a couple settings. And so if we go to settings and guidance, on the right hand side down at the bottom you have boundary setup, and we want to go in there and check to where we have a setting. The top line says boundaries are enabled, and if they are enabled, that means that your row clutches or your sprayer boom shutoffs are going to shut off as soon as they go outside of that boundary. The bottom line has to do with expand boundary, and if we go into that menu, you have a do not expand, expand 1/2 swath width, or expand 1 full swath width. If you need to expand it 1/2 a swath width wider so you can spray your fence rows, or you cleared a tree line out and you need to make the field a little wider, you can do that if you feel necessary. For right now, we're going to leave it on do not expand, and we will go towards our next menu here. And we need to go into mapping, and you'll notice we have point, line, and area. The area is the one you want to check out if we go into that. And the main thing to look for in here is your recording position. Right now it says antenna. You can change that to the center of your boom, the left side of your boom, or the right side of your boom if you would like to. We will leave it for the antenna setup for today. So once you have checked out those two settings, then one thing to pay attention to is if you hit the status button once, you will notice you have your field name, a field area, productive area, and coverage. Once we complete a boundary, you will see amount of acres pop up in the field area. And if we don't do any waterways, the productive area will be the same, but if we do waterways, it'll subtract out the acreage of the waterways from the field area, being more exact in for yield data and things like that. Actual coverage area, not including your waterways, is what that is set up for. So if we go to our screen here, we will go ahead and open a field, and we will create a new field. We will leave it on an AB pattern, and we have a 30-foot wide implement. And on this screen, we're going to answer yes to record a boundary. Keep in mind, you do not have to record a boundary every time you open a field. If you got your field saved and you recorded a boundary, you do not have to keep doing a boundary. You can pull up that field with that boundary and continue to log new events in those fields versus drawing a boundary every time. Unless something has changed, you do not need to record a boundary again. So we will continue, and it's just going to confirm our field information here. You would want to save a new client, and you would want to set up your farm name in here, your field, specific field, and the specific event that you're going to do, say plant, just for today's purposes. And once you get that set where you want it, keep in mind your boundary is always going to be saved how you have your field information set up for you. So we'll go to the next page. You can get very specific on this page again with detailed information for that field or for that event in that field. And now we have our field opened, and in order to get to the boundary start is what we need to push when we're ready to start. you have to hit the arrow over icon to be able to start your boundary area. And while you are driving along your boundary, you can run your AB line on whichever side of the field that you want to base your passes on. So we're going to go ahead and get started here, and I need to give myself some speed in the demo mode here. And when you are ready to record your boundary, go ahead and hit the boundary start button, and you will see it's going to start drawing a red line directly behind the tractor. And you will notice we are recording at our antenna position, and so it's drawing a line based on where our antenna on our tractor is. So if you wanted to draw the line on the right side of your boom, we could go back in and set that. If you wanted to move your boundaries or expand them half a swath width, you could do that and expand them to the edge of your field also. You can set this up however you want. I am going to zoom out here so we can see the bigger picture of what's going on as we draw our boundary. If you would want to paint your screen, put your tillage tool on the ground and paint your screen on the first round around the field, by all means, go ahead and turn on your paint. I'm going to go ahead and we'll plot our A point right here. There's our A point popping up, and we'll go ahead and turn our paint on so that we know we already covered this pass in the field. And you'll notice the B icon lit up right away as soon as you go that minimum 30 feet. You can push your B button and have a guidance line. It is best to drive the whole length of the field, and before you make your turn at the end of the field, press your B button. That way your AB line runs the full length of your field. You will note we do have a boundary pause button here. If you're driving around the outside of the field and a tree is down or something, or you have to drive around an obstruction, before you turn to the left or to the right to drive around, if you hit the boundary pause button and drive around it, then drive back to where you want to continue and press the button again, it'll resume your boundary for you and draw a straight line in between those 2 points. So I'm going to zoom out here one more time, and we're getting close to the end of our field here, so I'm going to go ahead and plot my B point to give me a guidance line, and we'll turn off our paint. Now we're still recording a boundary, but you can see that I have a guidance line put in there. And you can see as we're driving across the headlands or the end of the field, you are watching your next lines pop up on the screen as you drive across the field. So depending upon what you're doing in the field, you could skip a pass, you could skip a couple passes, you could drive clear to the other side of the field and work back to where you started, and you know that your lines are going to be right on as far as your implement width goes by the time you end up back where you started. So we'll go ahead and turn here again, go back to our starting point. As you're going around the outside of the field, if you run into a tree or something that is in the way and you want to be able to drive right back to it, if you go to mapping and you plot a tree, it's going to put a ring on the screen for you. and therefore you could drive back to that point where that tree was down around the outside of the field at any time afterwards, as long as you bring up the field again to view it. That was the trailing view that you have an option of running on your screen. I switched back to the overhead view so that you could get an idea of what both views look like. I'll go ahead and zoom back in here a little bit so you can see what things look like. The red line that you currently see is an AB line that you're closest to. The other blue lines across the screen are AB lines that you are not close enough to engage on. The red line is the line that you could engage your steering on if the steering wheel will go yellow. And once you get back to your starting point, you go ahead and hit boundary finish. And do you want to store the new boundary? And you hit the green check for yes. And you will see a black line now on the screen, which is your boundary of your field.